Well, good morning and welcome to the fourth seminar for this spring series. We have the honor to have with us Toinette van Rooyen, who is a Sweetcorn Breeder for Starke Ayres in South Africa. Toinette, it's a pleasure to have you with us. I'm not going to go through your bio because you do have a slide with your trajectory, which is very good. And apologize in advance for having butchered your last name. I'm not a Dutch speaker, so you do a better job than me. Thank you so much, Toinette, and for accepting this invitation. And I'm gonna stop sharing now. Sorry, if I can. There you are. The screen is yours. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Carlos, for this great opportunity. Yeah, like you said, I'm Toinette van Rooyen. Don't worry about pronouncing my name and surname. There's a lot of people that struggle, and I also struggle to pronounce other people's name when I travel. So it's as long as we understand one another, then we will be fine. As you can see, my Instagram and LinkedIn information is at the bottom of the main screen. So if anybody who's listening would like to start following me, I would really appreciate that, because I love sharing photos of what we do at Starke Ayres in the Sweetcorn breeding program. I do share that on Instagram quite often. So I thought I will start. Oh, let me just make sure I can. Okay, wait, sorry. Let me just see what I did wrong here. Just try it this way. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the first slide is just to tell you something about myself. My career in the ag industry started in 2004 when I started to work at Panor in the biotech lab based in Greytown. Before that, I studied at Stellenbosch University, and I was very fortunate to have had a bursary from Panor. And in the biotech lab, we used all DNA techniques to help the different breeding programs. Then from the biotech lab, I moved on to the analytical lab that was more chemical based. I worked on double haploids, on aluminium screening, on gem testing, on molybdenum. And then later, Pioneer, actually in 2012, Pioneer bought Panor and our roles all shifted a bit. And then I was still part of the analytical lab, but I also got involved in inbred management for the African breeding programs. Now that was quite an eye-opener for me. I was the person between the breeders and parent seed. So while I had to learn all these new techniques, I was also always in the middle. I was always in the gray area, but I must say, from all the positions that I've held, that was the one where I had to learn the quickest, and I used some of what I've learned there. I actually still use up until today. Then in 2017, I got the opportunity to be the research lead. By that time, we were Corteva, the research section, and I was the research operations lead for Greytown. So my focus shifted from plant to people. And if I look back at my career at Panor or Corteva, and this role as the research operations lead is one that I actually enjoyed the most, because I was responsible for people and their well-being, and I learned a lot. And while we were still at Panor, we had the opportunity in the biotech lab to work with quite a variety of crops. Now, Starke Ayres, the company that I work for now, was then still part of the Panor team, and we worked on what we call maize, but what you guys called corn. We've worked on corn, sunflowers, wheat, dry beans, soya beans, and then veggies. It was tomatoes, pumpkins, sweet corn, and onions. So we had quite a big variety. And also when I joined the lab in 2004, it was quite an exciting period because we still used starch gels at that stage, where we ran isoenzymes for a variety of tests. And I was part of the lab to see how they would grow and implement technology to where the Corteva lab today is, where they use robotics, and they are based in Delmas. Because it's important to actually know where you come from. And I think we must all remember that. And so that when you look back, that you can actually see how much you've grown as a person and in your role. Then in 2019, I joined the Starke Ayres team as the Sweetcorn Breeder. Now, a very good friend one told me and said, you must never look at your career as a ladder. You must look at it as a jungle gym. You will spend some time on the swings, you will spend some time on the monkey bars, you will spend some time on the ropes, and then you might actually either go to the slide, or you can go to the castle, or you will go back to the swings. But in each place on the jungle gym, you're going to learn new things, you're going to meet new people, and it will help you grow as you go. And I really think that is very good advice that up until today, I really appreciate from her. Then just a few photos. That's me on the top. That's me in the maroon jacket, and my husband Etienne in the gray jacket with my sister and their little baby. That little brown dog is the newest member to the family. It's a 4-way cross. Her name is Zia, for Zia Mice. The photo next to it is in Mozambique. We love going to Mozambique for our summer holidays. And the two at the bottom left and in the middle, also Etienne did some fishing there in Mozambique. And then there's my boxer, Phila. She's my running partner and a real true friend. Then, as I mentioned, I work for Starke Ayres now. We are part of the Plenity group of companies. You will see there's actually 10 companies that make up the Plenity group. And out of that 10, 8 companies have got roots in the ag sector. Now, that is quite important to keep in mind for the following slides, but I will just quickly run through them. Padelta, they are producing potato and corn seed. Wembley College is a school that the company started. The EGT is the timber section. Then we also, Plenity has got their own planes. It just makes it easier because we're outlying area. If you need to travel, especially into Africa, it's just easier if you have your own planes. Tubidex is farming equipment. Then, as you know, if you sell seed, you need bags and labels and tags. So that's where the printing section come in. Mascor is John Deere and Toyota. Combat is for garden. There's a slide on that as well. And Triton is a courier company. Now, if you look at Starke Ayres, the purpose of the company is, it says there at Starke Ayres, our goal is to help end hunger through investing significant resources into developing superior quality seed. Now, that is quite a noble purpose, if I can say that myself, and that whole group of companies actually help one another to meet their purpose. And we all know the big talk about hunger, and we can just see what the war in Ukraine and Russia is doing to the food prices and our petrol prices or your gas prices in the US. So it's in a fine balance. Our vision is growing together for a sustainable future. Now that's a very short sentence with very loaded words. Growing is not just plants, but it's also the people and your team members, and together means that you are never alone in the company. There's always somebody to look after you. And sustainable future is, I believe, we need to, we're only on earth for a certain amount of time, but we need to leave it something better behind than what we inherited the day that we were born. And the mission is to ethically and sustainably grow partnerships with our people, our customers, our communities, by ensuring affordable access to the highest quality of seed for Africa. Now, there's also just a few words. The ethical sustainability partnerships also mean that you're not alone. The company gets involved in the community, and we look, the people working for the company are being looked after, so as our customers and the communities where they operate in. Now there's 499 employees at Starke Ayres. We've got 10 supply and operation sites, 6 research sites, and 64 countries where we are active in. Just getting back to the 499, I know there's a few students on the call. One day you're going to be part of a bigger company, and you need to find your niche market in that big company, and you need to be able to work with people from different backgrounds, people with different ideas, and people sometimes that you really would not understand, even if you try. But at the end of the day, we all work towards the same goal, the same purpose, the same vision. And this is where soft skills come in. It's quite a buzzword these days. And I just feel when we study genetics to be plant breeders, we learn about biochemistry, we learn about genetics, we learn about plants, but we don't actually learn about these soft skills. Well, we didn't when I was undergrad. And it's actually only later in my life that I realized the importance of those soft skills. And I wish that we were actually taught that at varsity. Then just to mention a few soft skills, but I'm sure you all are all familiar with it. It is developing accountability, being able to motivate yourself, and also to stay positive. Then again, this is just a summary of the Plenary group with a focus on the vision for food security. And I'm going to be a typical female now and start at the back at number 5, not at number 1. So it says of that whole Plenary group that 10 companies, that 2,000 and almost 2,200 people are employed in the sector where we all strive to produce enough food for everybody. Then if you look at number 4, it is almost 4 million people that was fed from the grain and potato seed production by the Delta Group. And then 124 million almost is had benefit from the 3 key veggie breeding programs of Starke Ayres. And there's 1.5 tons of vegetables that was produced from the Starke Ayres breeding programs, and then 17 million tons, just a bit more than that, was actually produced using Starke Ayres genetics. This is a little history of Starke Ayres. You can see we started in 1877 and not as in Cape Town. Now I believe, or I would believe, if any of you ever visit South Africa, Cape Town needs to be one of your stops. Please visit there. It's a beautiful city. And we need tourists to come and visit us after COVID. Then in 1986, Starke Ayres started their first research department in Greytown. And in 2007, the Starke Ayres head office moved from Cape Town to Johannesburg. And that's also when some of the breeders was moved from Greytown to the other research stations. And the research section was also started to being developed in Johannesburg in Kempton Park. It's close to our Tambo airport. So if you fly into South Africa, that's most likely where you will put your feet on the ground for the first time. Then in 2012, Starke Ayres opened a nursery, and in 2017, we celebrated our 140th year. So we are looking forward to the next milestone. These are the 5 research Starke Ayres dedicated stations that we have in South Africa. And as I said, Kempton Park is based in Gauteng. That's where our head office is. That's also where the factory and the cleaning plant and the labs are situated, and also fields where we can plant trials and have nurseries. Komatipoort is on the border. That's the light blue one. Komatipoort is on the border with Mozambique and also close to the Kruger Park, another place you need to come and visit when you visit our beautiful country. And if you want to see the big 5, that's the place to go. And Komatipoort allows us to have a winter program within our own borders, which allows us to have 2 seasons without having to ship seed to another country. The green one is Greytown. That's where I am situated on the east side. Now, those of you who have been watching CNN and Sky News, as you will know about the floods that we have had in the eastern part of South Africa. So that's a province that has been influenced. Then also, just to get back to Komatipoort, sorry, I just forgot to mention that, is that when we plant there in the winter, then it allows us to have shorter days and then cooler nights. That helps us with certain selections. In Greytown, we actually have 3 different planting dates. We've got an early, a main, and a late season. Now, the late season is when we have our severe disease pressure. So we do not have a trial in the late plantings, but we do screening for our disease nurseries. It's quite a big part of what we do in the late planting section. The main section is we have a trial and a nursery, and the early section we try to select for high eating quality as well as early maturing hybrids and lines. Now, Oudtshoorn is almost on the border of the Karoo in the Western Cape. So there's not a lot of disease pressure there. They've got long, hot days. So we need to work out our planting dates quite efficiently, because if you go over Christmas, that's our summer here in South Africa, then it actually gets so hot that the plants don't pollinate. And yeah, so we have to work on that. But what we see in Oudtshoorn, the environment is very close to other sweetcorn breeding locations throughout the world. So we have a trial and a nursery. And because Oudtshoorn, there's not much disease pressure, you can allow plants that would have not survived in Greytown or Komatipoort due to environmental stress will actually be able to survive in Oudtshoorn. Now, Kimberley is another research site where we also do a breeding nursery and some line development over there. Then Starke Ayres have got 12 breeders at the moment, and we are all situated, or we are all spread across the 5 research sites. I know this slide also says 6, and the previous, there was another slide with 6. That 6th one is in the Eastern Cape. It's a piece of land that gets leased for its tomato program, but it doesn't belong to us. So I will just stick to the 5 sites that belongs to Starke Ayres. So you will see that there's a tomato breeding program, a green bean one, sweet corn, squash, pumpkin, and onion. And then on the right-hand side is just some pictures of the breeders and in their fields. In Kempton Park, we have our lab facilities. And the DNA lab or the biotech lab is situated there, the quality lab and the pathology lab. We've got tunnels where we can plant right throughout the year. And we also have a big area underneath. So a lot of trials and screening happens in that area as well. So Kempton Park is also the research hub for Starke Ayres, if I can call it that. Then, as I mentioned, Starke Ayres head office is in Joburg, just a few kilometers from the OR Tambo Airport. And in the African countries that we are active in is Namibia, Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Oh, well, there's a whole list. You can read them there. Now, what is quite significant about this slide for me is that people sometimes don't realize how big Africa is. And I love this picture to just give you an idea. That is why some people, there was actually an ad for one of the banks, financial institutions in South Africa, where they say, other people call it the future, referring to Africa, but we call it home. So we are quite privileged to be able to live and work in Africa. Then just a few pictures from the Starke Ayres side again on retail, small packs that get sold in our chain stores and co-ops. So that you get a small packet that's for somebody that would like to plant in their garden, and then tins if you would like to plant a bigger section. There's the part that focus on garden, and there you can see there's a wide variety, from rose food to organic fertilizer to bone meal. And then combat, you will remember it was one of the 10 logos on that slide from the Plenergy group, as you will actually, yeah, that's more herbicides and pesticides. Then back to the sweet corn market. This pie chart just, I would like to indicate to you there, you will see that the fresh bicolor market in South Africa is only 3%. Now that is very small if you compare it to the US market and the New Zealand market, and white sweet corn is something that we don't actually see a lot in South Africa. My sister once sent me a picture, she stays in the Western Cape, and she sent me a picture of white sweet corn and she said, "What's wrong here? Didn't it get any sun?" And I said, no, and I had to explain to her that the sweet corn is just the white variety. So we mainly focus on the fresh yellow main market and the processing market. Now, on the picture is also just to give you an idea how we consume sweet corn in South Africa. We can buy them fresh, as you can see in that see-through plastic container. Then we make sweet corn fritters there on top. We buy it in cream style in a tin. We make a savory sweet corn pie that you use corn maize to actually make porridge, and then we add like onions and mushrooms and bacon and sweet corn and cheese, and you will have it with what we call a braai. You guys will call it the barbecue. We can buy frozen kernels in the supermarket, and then the picture on the left is just to show that if you put sweet corn on a barbecue or a braai, as what we call it, then yeah, that is quite something that we do in summer, and we would add butter and some nice herbs on that. If you look at South Africa and where the production areas are, you will see up in the north in Limpopo, that orange section, that's for the winter and the summer. They can produce in winter and in summer, and it's for the fresh and the processing market. And then as we move down, you will see it's just for summer, just below Polokwane. And then in the Gauteng area is for summer again. There's a small area in KZN, in the green section, where we produce for summer production area, and then also in the Free State, and then also in the Western Cape. But it is quite South Africa is quite a big country, so the sweet corn hybrids that we plant in the Western Cape is not the same ones that we plant in Limpopo. So there's a huge environmental impact that we actually need to assess in the breeding program. Now, keeping in mind our big South Africas with the different regions and also our 5 breeding stations, and then we are also privileged to be able to plant trials under commercial farming conditions in South Africa, and we do that in winter and in summer, and that just helps us also to build on those relationships, working on our soft skills with the farmers and the producers in the ag industry. Now, being able to screen our germplasm across such a wide range of environmental conditions and temperatures and rainfall and level above sea level, we are actually, it puts us in a very privileged position to screen our germplasm for a wide range of what can go wrong. As one also a very good friend of mine once told me, that you must not just make notes of what looks good in the field, you must also make notes about what didn't work, so you can learn from that. So you'll see in the top, there's a picture about silk jamming. That happens if we go into the colder season. That sometimes happens in the winter production area. So that's a big no-no and a problem for us. You get tipful issues that can be environmental and genetics. Then kernel popping, that's usually if there was a drought and it would rain again, and the kernels of the plant would take up the water, and would take up so much water that the kernels crack, and then the ear starts rotting. This season, we actually saw quite a few of our GEs making a second or even a third ear on the primary ear. We had some tassels that was germinating, that's in the bottom right corner. Open husks is a huge problem for us, especially in the Great Town area in the Misbelt. where the disease pressure is so high. Then you can also get some bad pollination. That's that white one with a few kernels on, bear claws. That for the this season, we also had extreme weather, from rain to very hot days to very cold spells. We saw quite a few of our GEs producing bear claws, and then shanks. Now, shanks is something that we select against, especially when we focus on the US market. As I mentioned, Greytown is in the mist belt or the fog belt, as you would say in the US. So it's very wet and cold some of the days, and then we will also get extreme humid and warm days. Now, this cold weather with high moisture is very good for disease pressure, and we as breeders are always looking for differences. Now, that's one of our claims to fame, is our attention to detail. And I just want to share a few photos with you that came out of one of my nurseries that I planted in Greytown this season. So the first photo, you will see there's northern corn leaf blight and common rust on the leaf. Then the photo on your right, you will see there's just a little bit of common rust. Then these two had severe rust and present on them. And then a plant not far away had no disease. So this allows us to breed for and select for a few diseases without actually inoculating the plants. We are just relying on the environment and the natural disease pressure. Now, there's some, I was fortunate enough to take over a breeding program where the person before me did a lot of work on increasing the disease tolerance, and he actually read a few lines that is now present in hybrids, and we are doing comparative trials with these hybrids, where we would compare the hybrid without the rust tolerance with it, and we evaluated that all over South Africa, and we are very impressed with the results that we are getting. And if you see at the bottom, there's a picture of the different ears that we compare to a standard on your left. And yeah, even if I must say it myself, I haven't read them, so I can't take any credit for them. But yeah, the future looks yellow and sweet for us at Starke Ayres. When I started in the Sweetcorn breeding program, somebody on my first visit to the US, he said, Toinette, you need to realize that you are now part of the beauty pageant, because sweetcorn is one of the vegetables that gets people look at it. Customers buy it with their eyes. So it's the beauty queen of the veggie world. Now, if the lady on your right is Rolene Strauss, she became Miss World after she won Miss South Africa. And what I love about her story, and what I think there's a lesson in for us in the breeding sector as well, is that she entered Miss South Africa for the first time in 2011. She made it to the top 5, and when the judge asked her her final question, she didn't understand what the judge meant. So she asked him to repeat it, which she did, and she still didn't understand the question. And she tried to answer it. Now, her main language is Afrikaans, like mine, so English is our second language. And as she tried to answer this question, her English just ran out. She had no more English words left, and it got so bad that the people in the audience actually started to boo her. And if you look at that video that is available on YouTube, it's actually sad to see how the tears in her eyes are just swelling up, and you can just see the frustration on her face. But that evening, after the crowning of Miss South Africa, somebody in the audience came up to Rolene and said, I can see that you have potential in you. I can see that you can win Miss South Africa, and if you want to, you can win Miss World. But you need to go back home, you need to work on a few things, and you need to let me guide you. You need to let me be your mentor so we can do this together. And if you want to go on this journey with me, then I will assist you and help you. And that person was Werner Wessels. and he's a stylist, and he helped her. And yes, like I said, the rest is history. So she won Miss South Africa in 2014, and then she became Miss World after that. So keeping Rulien Strauss and what we need to focus on in the breeding program in mind, what we would like to focus on looking ahead in the Sweetcorn breeding program is there's always this question. Now, this is also when another mentor of mine, or maybe even all the breeders at Starke Ayres said, we always need to have a balance between your agronomic traits and your quality traits. Now, for you guys in the US, you've got a big roadside market, which we don't have in South Africa. We buy sweet corn at the local supermarket, and then also you've got a shipping market. Now, the first time when I was introduced to in America, when I walk through a trial, people will say, "Oh, this is a shipper, and this is this," and yes, my head just turned. And then I had to learn that for every market there are specific traits that we need to focus on. For example, for the shipper market, there's a certain crate, and a certain number of sweet corn ears needs to fit into that. And if the ears are too small, then there will be too many. And if the ears are too big, then there will be less. And yeah, so you need to know what you are focusing on. So one of the big areas that we are currently focusing on, and we know we need to improve, is the maturity of our hybrids. We want to be compare ourselves with some of the market leaders out there. Then excellent customer and retail appeal. As we said, customers in the sweet corn market buy first with their eyes when they take it off the shelf, and then when they eat it, when they taste it, and they can smell the flavor of the sweet corn. So to focus on that customer and retail appeal, we need to go for a striking appearance, taste and flavor, as I mentioned. We need to focus on sweetness. We need to focus on tenderness and texture. We need a vibrant, brilliant color, which is bright. And that's also something for the sweet corn powder market. That's a big market in Japan, where they color soup with dry sweet corn, and that's a big part of what the New Zealand market is actually focusing on. Then when people buy sweet corn, they want everything to look the same. So we work on uniform shape and straight ears. And then something that I also learned on my first visit to the US is the importance of flat leaves. That is something that in South Africa we don't actually even take into account because we don't have a roadside market, but that's very important for the US. So we actually started to rate our hybrids and our inbreds for flat leaves. Then to make life easier for the production side of the company. Now we know in research you can have the best hybrid, but if it can't be produced, it can't go into a bag, and it can't be sold by this marketing team, and the farmer won't be able to plant it. So we need to focus on breeding a hybrid that have consistent yield and high production and potential. It needs to have a great tipful, straight rows again, uniform and straight ears. We need to have good husk protection to protect the sweet corn ear from disease. Then we need to focus strong on disease tolerance. Now there's also sometimes pros and cons about how you look at it, because in South Africa for rust resistance, the D gene is still good enough for us. It has not been broken down like in other sections of the world. And this year we actually planted a rust differential set that we got the seed from the US, and people that we collaborate with in the US sent it to a team in Chile. They actually planted for ourselves that, and then we got the seed to South Africa. So it took us more than a season to actually get the seed back in South Africa. But when we, after one season of evaluating that rust differential set all over South Africa, it looks like we need to actually go for a combination of a D and a G gene for rust resistance. But please remember that is now in South Africa. If you go to different parts of the world, I know some companies are focusing on an I and a J gene for rust resistance, and then the G gene as well. Then we try that our hybrids is adaptable across as many growing regions, also just to make it easier for the production team, that they don't have so many different hybrids to produce. Then this is just a map to show you guys that how in South Africa we are green there. So if we want to send any seed for trials or nurseries to the US, we send the inbreds to Chile, where the nursery is planted and the crosses are made, and that hybrid seed then gets sent to the US, where we actually have 3 different trialing sites. And hopefully, if my COVID test is negative, I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow. I'm very excited. This is my first international travel after COVID, so I can't wait to visit the US. Then from South Africa, we also send seed to Australia. Now, it's very difficult. I don't know if any of you have dealt with Australians and the importing of seed. They are very strict. So we can only send a few kernels in at a time of a certain inbred. It goes through a whole glasshouse process. And then only if we get the go ahead, then it gets increased in the field, and then your crosses are being made. And that's how we also get seed into New Zealand, is via Australia. We also send seed to for trials and evaluation to Europe and to the UK, and that seed we either send from South Africa or from our people that we work with in the US. So it just shows you that it makes me quite proud if you visit these trials all over the world, and you know that inbred will actually started in your hometown, and your field team helped you, and you were involved with the pollinations, and that hybrid is doing well in different locations all over the world. Then just a last thing before I am finished. I do love talking, so you guys need to stop me if I talk too much. I am part of SAPA, the SAPA committee. That's a Southern African Plant Breeders Association, and we just had our biannual symposium in the beginning of March, and we were very actually shocked, to be quite honest with you. We prepared for 8 people to attend in person, and we actually ended up with a waiting list. And luckily for us, our government did relax our COVID rules, and the hotel helped us, so we could actually accommodate 100 people. So it was 100 people all involved in different sectors in Southern Africa in the plant breeding community. Then we as plant breeders, we don't always like when people call us control freaks, but I think most of are actually. And one of our big sponsors, as you will see Corteva there in the background, they actually have a student session where they say you must get a student committee. The 4 ladies there in the bottom picture on the left, that they must run with a certain part of the symposium to give them exposure as well. So they need to come up with their own idea, they need to organize everything. And one of their ideas was to have a session where upcoming plant breeders or people in the plant breeding community can actually interact with in the leaders in the industry. So we had a panel discussion. We had a patent lawyer there that looks after the plant breeding rights in South Africa. We had somebody from Sansor, that's the regulatory committee for the seed industry in South Africa. We had people from Bayer, Corteva, and Syngenta, all answering questions from the student side. We combined that evening with an award ceremony for the 20 most influential plant breeders in South Africa. There was a special SAPA project that we launched, and each plant breeder, or the ones that would attend, had a few minutes to just share a few things that they have learned and they wish they would know earlier in their life as a plant breeder. So there is just pictures of the 20 plant breeders that was identified by this special project by SAPA. And yeah, so if you need any contact details of any of them, you can look on the SAPA website, or you guys can just get hold of me and I will share their information with you gladly. Now, just want to pause on this side. You will see there are two gentlemen on the slide, both from Starke Ayres, Richard Libbe and Kobus Swanepoel. And I'm very fortunate to have these two breeders as colleagues and as friends, because yeah, I believe that we can learn from everybody, and every day is a new opportunity to learn. And something that came out from all of these breeders that was nominated is they're not shy to share their skills or their knowledge with anybody. You don't just need to be a breeder, but yeah, if you ask them, they will gladly assist you. And then, yes, that's like Forrest Gump. That's what I have to say about that. So yes, if there's anybody who would like to make a comment or to ask me anything, then please feel free.
Thank you, Toinette. Thank you for your presentation. It's to be honest, I mean, I think we talked like a year ago when we first connected, and that was when I started learning about your company, which was unknown to me. I have to confess that. Very impressive. One of the questions I have, and as you said, we have students in the audience from different places in the world. What does it take for an international person that is graduating to apply for a position at Starke Ayres, either in South Africa or in other countries? Do you have a diversity of nationalities, I would say?
Yes, we do. At Starke Ayres, Starke Ayres is also one of the companies who've got a bursary program, especially for people in the plant breeding industry. And what is brilliant about that bursary program is you get exposure to a seed company. So you come and work and you spend time at all 5 different breeding stations. Now, with the different activities, now Starke Ayres are active in Chile, in New Zealand, in Australia, like I said, and in Europe. We just are not too sure what's, we all hope and pray things will be better there. But yeah, there are definitely opportunities. So any student can go onto the Starke Ayres website. We are also open for collaboration. So if there's any student who's got an idea, or any university that can help us with, or with different screenings or trial locations for any of the breeding programs that I just mentioned, not just Sweetcorn, then we are open for that, and please get in contact with us. And then sometimes if a student just wants to maybe make contact and to hear about how the pumpkin breeding program is doing in South Africa, or what the onion breeding program is doing, please don't hesitate. If you don't want to contact those breeders directly, please feel free to contact me, and I will send you the necessary information. So we can
I
see
would,
I
would suggest, Toinette, that whenever there's anything openings, that you maybe share with me, and then I circulate it among our students. In case there's interest.
Yes, I can do that. And also we share opportunities through the SAPA newsletter as well. So if any of you would like to receive that newsletter, you are also more than welcome. You can just look on the SAPA website, and to be very honest, I don't want to lie to you. I'm not too sure if you need to be a member to receive the newsletter, but if you have issues when you're on the website, just please get hold of me, and I will get you on that mailing list as well.
It's a question from Marcio Resende, and he said, great talk. And the question, a couple of questions. What are the expected market trends for sweet corn in Africa? Is consumption growing? More growth in the fresh market or processing sector? Those are different questions about.
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to meeting Marcio and his team next week. I can't wait. And yes, so one of the one of the challenges is that we need to, I personally feel we need to do more to expose people to different kind of vegetables. You eat veggies what your mom and granny cooked for you, and sometimes it is difficult to get a new trend going, and especially in Africa, maybe not just in South Africa, but the cold chain can sometimes be an issue. That's something that you need to keep in mind. So the shelf life isn't always there. And then a big part of the population on the African continent, maize or corn is their go-to product, because you can store it, you can keep it, you can do so many different things with it. So we, from our side, we need to actually educate the public out there and show them what can be done. I know in America you have a national Sweetcorn Day, and that is something that we can't, because we're in there's different seasons for us, but that is something that we actually need to do. So I thought I will just start with our own company. So last season, when we evaluated the trial in Kempton Park, we actually had a barbecue where we put sweet corn on, and we invited people to say, come and walk through the trial, see what we do, and then try a sweet corn that was on the barbecue. Then I would personally say the processing market is bigger than the fresh market in South Africa, especially with the cold chain. And South Africa is such a big country, and not everybody can keep veggies for so long. So tin food and frozen sweet corn is definitely a bigger one. But it is a market that is definitely growing as people are becoming more and more health conscious, and people are eating less meat. That is definitely something that we all see that is picking up. I hope I answered all the questions.
Another question here from Ernest. Thank you for your presentation. Interesting to hear that yellow is most popular sweet corn in South Africa. White and bicolor tend to become more popular in the U.S. fresh market. Is this a market expansion opportunity in the African market, the bicolor and white?
I think again, it is we as humans we like structure. And we don't always go out of our comfort zone. And yellow sweet corn is something that we all grow up with. If you eat sweet corn in South Africa, you don't actually see a white sweet corn. We're not exposed to it. And also the white sweet corn tends to be a lot sweeter and softer. So it's more prone to disease pressure in South Africa in the production areas, and also towards insect damage as well. So it is more difficult. I know there was a few producers who actually tried to produce white sweet corn, but they were not as successful as with the more yellow ones that is more a little bit hardy and more adapted for the South African production areas.
I was a bit surprised, Toinette, because I have some experience in Eastern Africa, in Zambia, when Syngenta bought MRI, and knowing that in the case of corn, the dry kernel, white is the preferred type of corn, particularly for pot ribs and things like that. And I was expecting that most of your photos were going to be white sweet corn, and they're not. That's interesting.
Yes, yeah. No, we are quite a lot of interesting people staying here.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
No, I remember when I was a child, we had a drought in South Africa, and there wasn't any white corn, and yellow corn had to be imported. So the porridge that we bought in the shops was actually yellow, and people didn't want to buy it. People didn't want to eat it. So the government, it was in the late 80s, early 90s. So the government actually sent people out into towns, onto farms, into communities to say, listen, you make this porridge exactly the same as which you've made with the white one. It's just yellow. It's just a different color.
Just close your eyes when you're eating it. A question from Eric is, are mycotoxins in sweet corn a big problem in South Africa? And if so, is there any breeding for resistance?
Sorry, just repeat that for me.
Mycotoxins, are they important problem in South Africa?
To be very honest with you, we are not focusing on mycotoxins at the moment in the current breeding program, but it is maybe something that we can look into maybe for the future. But at the moment, I can't answer that. I'm not aware of any problems. When we have visited farmers or processors or customers, that's not something that has actually came up yet.
This may be a question that you may or may not be able to answer. Is there any BT genes in the sweet corn? I mean, because there are here in the US, but that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we do in South Africa. We do have BT corn and Roundup Ready corn. We do have that, but for the vegetables, we are still quite very conservative if it comes to GM crops. So for the South African veggie market, we are still non-GM. And that is also one of Starke Ayres' claim to fame, is that we're a GMO-free company when it comes to our veggie seed, yes.
Question also in terms of the hybrids, are the 3 ways or single process that you mostly put in the market?
Now we are, at the moment, we are looking at single crosses, but going forward, we will definitely be evaluating some 3-way crosses as well.
Any other questions before we close this thing? I wish you the best of luck here in the US, Toinette.
Thank you.
And let's stay in contact and enjoy your presentation. And I don't have any plans of traveling to South Africa any soon, but if I have, I will let you know and be very happy.
Yeah.
To visit
Yes,
you.
Please. Yeah. If
And,
if you ever come to this part of the world, please let me know. As you see, I love talking, so, I will be able to.
Yes.
To
Can you stop sharing, please? I want to show the last. Okay, the last slide. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. And now, if I can share, I'm going to share here. So for next time we meet, we're going to have Jonathan Kirsten joining us. I hope I can share that. Yes. So we are returning again to the seminars on Thursday. This one was an exception on Wednesday because Toinette had to travel tomorrow. That's why we scheduled a day earlier. So next Thursday will be Jonathan Kirsten from another seed company, East West Seeds in Thailand, talking about vegetable breeding in the tropics and through the eyes of a young breeder. Actually, Jonathan is a graduate from NC State, so it's great to have people that are within our programs working internationally. Thanks so much to everybody attending today. Have a good rest of the week. Have an excellent weekend, and I look forward to having you with us next week. Thank you so much. Thanks, Toinette. Have an excellent week. And thanks everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.